All right, so you started, and I'll start right here. Let's hang on a second.
There it goes.
Yeah.
All right, so S-Man is starting up his, so I don't know
Yep.
if they're
And we're
supposed to start.
live.
There
So
we
I've
go.
not been on YouTube for just about 2 weeks. I'll probably explain that another time. But because of the bullshit I've been seeing from the Democrats and people on the left, among other people, who've just been utterly infuriating on the issue of due process and just hashtag believe women, believe survivors, and all that bullshit. Me and HUMANe are going to be talking about the Kavanaugh hearing in terms of the uh,
It's just the utter nonsense involved in every bit of this. Every bit of this. This is political theater at its worst. Like, I don't know. So we're gonna start, I guess, with Ford's claims and her horrendous testimony that the Democrats are all patting themselves
Well,
on the back. Oh
one
yeah, that
side
was
of
so
one,
great. We
one side of the
such
other.
progress, such much success. It it makes me wonder. Like, so this is what I just posted on Twitter. Either Democrats are functionally retarded, like the elected Democrats are either functionally retarded, or they are playing as if they're functionally retarded, hoping that the American people aren't like, wait, what? That they don't call them on it. Because the Republican senators are looking at it like, you guys do realize that's exactly what you're calling for is what we're doing right now. You're saying,
yeah,
oh, you should open up FBI investigation, and we should suspend these hearings and do an FBI investigation. He's like, all of your questions that you want answered, he's right here, right now, under oath, responding to your questions. Well, why do you need the FBI to be as a third party mitigator? Like, oh yeah, we need to open up an FBI investigation, and then they can ask them the questions that we want to ask them here today. You're like, what the hell? What is like the other people talking about this are kind of like, I mean, they're not actually saying it, but you can see it written on their face. They're like, dude, why you just wasted your entire time talking to Kavanaugh, talking about things that. Oh yeah, you should suspend this right now and then open an FBI investigation. And
yeah.
Kavanaugh's like, whatever the committee decides, I'll go with. And they're like, yeah, but would you prefer a FBI And he's just like, you guys have me right here and are asking me questions right now.
Do you know what's
Yeah,
amazing? Oh, sorry.
honestly, and,
No,
and the funny thing. Go ahead, Blue. Go
yeah,
ahead.
let Blue go.
Oh, I was gonna say, he is having to go through his old calendars and address dates and try to account for every single weekend in the summer of 1982. And I'm just thinking, has any defense ever had to do this ever? It's
Yeah.
No.
not his
Well,
responsibility to prove a null. This
Oh,
is
yeah,
oh, of course. And, and
yeah.
and the funny thing is, everyone's like, "How come he has calendar dates of this time?" It's like, how the fuck can you find witnesses from something that allegedly happened 36 years ago?
Yeah, so he has what whether the calendar is legit or not, that's okay, that's up for debate. Even he said it in his own opening statement. He's like, that's not enough evidence by itself, and this is my own personal, like, that's not. But combined with the other evidence being the four other people who are at the party all say, no, I wasn't at the party. One of those people should be on Ford's side, because one of those people is that one of Ford's former friends, or maybe even current friend.
Kaiser.
Yeah, yeah, but has no relation, no no kind of connection with Kavanaugh or Judge or the other guy at the party who is supposedly at the party. The only connection she has is with Ford. So you'd think, oh, she should at least be on Ford's side, or be neutral in this. And yet she's saying, no, I was never at the party. This never happened. I don't
Oof.
think I
No, it's
even
not.
met. Yeah, I
It,
don't think I've even met Kavanaugh.
that's
That
the
was her
thing. There's only
response.
like 5 people at the party total. She said it was 5 or 6 people at most. Okay, you didn't know him. You didn't know I mean, you say you knew Brett Kavanaugh. PJ, the other boy at the party, didn't know him.
Yeah,
Kaiser didn't know him. How did he get there?
yeah.
Who invited? What is this? So many questions about this.
Well, PJ did know him because PJ is apparently he was on the calendar that Kavanaugh was citing. So
PJ,
that was somebody that Kavanaugh did know. That was part of his group of friends and all that sort of thing. The other person, the unnamed person, because she didn't know. Nobody knows who that is. The Kavanaugh and all of his, they're like, dude, well, not only was this group of people never together to the best of our recollection, according to all the other witnesses, and according to Kavanaugh's calendar where he's saying, yeah, I would write down events, and these are the people who were there. He said it was kind of like a diary. So, granted, that he could have made that shit up. That's not submittable, like, in a court of law. He could have written that, like, the day he was accused and gone back and gotten a calendar and marked this stuff in. We don't know.
I'd like to mention something. Your handwriting does change over time. Your handwriting can stay consistent for quite a while, but there will be changes in styles of writing and jotting things down. So if Brett Kavanaugh has to get to this point of trying to prove the authenticity of the calendar if people have bad autistic like the Democrats, he could probably find something he had written, like a signature from 1982, and say, so if they say, you could have just written this down yesterday, he'd be like, no, this is the same handwriting from 1982.
Yeah, so the other thing, so they could compare it with his yearbook, which has his signature and his writing in it. They could also compare it with other events and with what other people are saying about 1982. Because if that is a calendar, and he wrote it yesterday, there's no way he could remember all the events that occurred in 82 and get it accurate. Now, if he was recording this in 82, like he claims, well, then everything's going to match up. All the events that he said, there was this football game this day, that's who, these are the people who were playing, these are the people I was hanging out with afterwards, we went over here and we worked out. That's something you can verify. You can go to other people who were at these, like, did this happen? You can go and check the dates from newspapers and be like, yes, this game happened on that, and Kavanaugh was in it. We've got pictures of them being quarterback, and that's stuff that you can go back and verify. So everything that's in his calendar, the calendar itself is up to scrutiny, right? It's not like this is solid gold, this definitely happened the way Kavanaugh said.
Well, it's important because it's a perjury trap,
Oh,
yeah. Democrats can prove one thing wrong on there, it's a perjury trap.
Oh, yeah.
But they haven't done it.
No, they haven't even tried to. Like, as far as when they're questioning him about the calendar, they don't even question the authenticity of any, at least from what I've seen on these questions of Democrats. The line that they keep going back to is, oh, well, if you're so interested in getting to the truth, why won't you have an FBI investigation? You're like,
you have him right there. You could literally just ask him any questions you got.
The hearing in front of Congress is a higher level of hearing than one before the FBI. Mm-hmm. So first of all, this is being broadcast on C-SPAN. This is being broadcast on public television. So if he's saying one thing wrong, there are millions of people watching that can, like, oh, nope, that didn't happen, and catch him in that, and he's caught on perjury. The FBI, all it is people in a room. It's whoever is in that room, or whoever is on the other side of the glass, or whatever it is, who's ever recording that, and whoever's writing it down. There's no way the scrutiny is anywhere near what he's getting right now. The FBI investigation, more than likely, it's going to be two people and a tape recorder. And that's it. But we've got people live right now fact-checking everything he's saying as he's saying it. Millions of people, not just two people in a room, who are going to go back and maybe review the tapes. This is the level of insanity on that is like, so either they are that stupid, or they think they can pretend to be that stupid and hope that Democratic voters don't catch on that they're just being outright deceitful in everything they're doing right now. And
the big thing today is the Ford hearing. Everyone's talking about it. Do you want to quickly go back through the other the other four accusations?
Yeah, well, that's actually they are actually still interviewing Kavanaugh based on Ford's testimony earlier today.
Yeah.
So wait. Is there okay? So the next session in Congress expires pretty soon. It expires this January, right? So they have until then, till when the nomination expire, or would they have to re-nominate him for the position? Because it feels like that's what they're doing. They're
trying to stall until the elections, and then Congress, the new set of congressmen come in, and they're hoping Democrats win, but after this
Well,
kind of
they
stuff,
come in January 3rd. That's like 98 days away.
Yeah, they come in January 3rd, and I think they're trying to stall until at least then.
Yeah.
Because it's the both parties are just as guilty of obstructing nominees like they did with Obama's nominee. I'm just saying either way, it's fucking stupid, and I think it's ridiculous. It's like, you waited 36 years to come forward. I'm sorry, I will never understand that. If you want to say you were raped, I might believe you. I might say, hey, I'm very sorry that happened. But if you're going to say, so-and-so raped me, I'm going to demand proof. And if you waited 36 years, then what the fuck are we supposed to do? If you're trying to say, well, he's a potential rapist, therefore deny him the nomination, like Hawk was saying, because he's a fucking moron, then then you are officially, functionally retarded. I'm sorry. But, that is not an acceptable answer. It's like, what if I said #Hawk is a rapist? Should I not be demanded to have prove that?
Well, I think there's a thing that you're missing here, and that's you don't have vagina. If you had vagina, then Hawk definitely raped you.
Are you assuming that it's not a social construct?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, then you claim that you had a vagina, and then therefore, yep, that means you gotta believe all women, so S-Man is a woman, secular Hawk, definitely right.
S-woman, thank you very much.
Alright, so let's get into the other accusations, because, the Ford thing is what they're talking about right now, but there's other accusations that you're like, okay, the Ford thing is ridiculous on its own, but wait, it gets worse?
It gets far worse.
Okay, go ahead, Blue.
Okay, well, the fifth allegation was actually the guy on Twitter who made it to the Senate. He already recanted it. It's already gone. It's already fake. I can try to link that in the chat if you want me to. That one just fascinates me. That went by. It wasn't even 24 hours. I think it just so quickly got disproved. But the fourth allegation has no name. It's an anonymous letter that says the wife of the supposed victim had a friend tell her that her I forget how it went, but it was several different. One sec.
Wait, so the anonymous source's wife had a friend that was supposedly sexually something with Kavanaugh.
No, I have it here. It's her daughter. Her daughter was supposed to be the one who was sexually assaulted, but she only learned this through one of her daughter's friends who confronted the people who were supposedly Brett and Mark on a boat in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the boat incident, because he brought that up and he's like, yeah, on a boat. It's like, well, okay, that there's no evidence of that. There's no track record, and also whose boat and how did he get to Rhode Island?
So that's the fourth one. There's no evidence behind that. Then we have the third allegation, which is Swetnick, and this is KavanAWE's
That's the gang
friend.
rape one, right? Yeah.
And the thing is, Jonah Goldberg had a great point to make. Is that she said there were dozens of times this happened.
Yeah.
That means there are dozens of victims. Okay.
Yes.
And you're saying that the news media, CNN, Washington Post, HuffPo, missed all of them? None of them? Where are they? We still haven't found them.
Okay, so there's a lot of holes with that particular. Like the other newer ones, there's not enough evidence, so there's not a whole lot. But this one, there is a lot of information that she's provided that you can just rip to shreds. First off, she said she went to at least 10 parties, but she knew that gang rapes were happening. Party number 1. People. Yeah, there's reports of women being drugged and taken off to rooms to get gang raped. At what point are you like, okay, I'm at party number 1, I find out this is going, let's go 9 more, hoping it happens to me? That's but no, it's okay. Some other girl is getting gang raped at these other parties, but I'm not gonna be the victim. I'm just gonna continue to go to these parties 9 more times, but I'm gonna protect my drink. And what?
Well,
no,
you want something else even better?
If that's going on, you stop going to those parties and you report that. Even if you don't report it, you stop going to the parties. You don't go to the parties where people are being gang raped because you don't want to be the victim.
her ex-husband actually came out and said she's lied before, and I think he actually may have custody of the kids right now. But he's lied before. He said she's lied before. I have a restraining order against her. She makes stuff up all the time. Don't believe it. So that's
Ooh.
what now.
Honestly,
Yeah,
and
that's.
and
Oh yeah. Okay, go ahead, ask me.
if people are going to be like that, of just believe with no evidence, then I automatically believe that woman's husband. And you know what? I mean, fuck due process. I mean that's the society we live in. That's the culture we live in. Just listen and believe. I mean, I've seen that all day from people IRL and on here, and it's like if you've been caught lying before, holy fuck.
Yeah.
If you've been caught lying before, then I don't think you're trustworthy at all. Like I
Well,
wouldn't trust someone. Like if I don't trust you as a heart surgeon, I'm not going to trust your testimony that someone raped you. Oh my,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the most retarded take ever.
Okay, so here's the other side of that. She says that there was gang rapes going on, and that she became a victim. Like, I'm assuming on party number 10, so she goes to party number 1, finds out, oh hey, there's supposedly rape gangs thingies going on. I'm gonna attend for 9 more parties, and then maybe on party number 10 she becomes the victim and then stops attending. It doesn't make any sense for her to be in party number 2, get gang raped at party number 2, and then go to 8 more, or at least. So the whole thing doesn't quite make sense. But the kicker for me is she was supposedly gang raped, but Brett Kavanaugh is the only name being mentioned and the only one they're going after.
Yeah. It's
Wait,
funny
wait.
that they don't remember the rest of the people, yet they were.
Who at this
ugh.
at this point you'd be like everybody who was involved, every
Well,
fucking
here's
monster.
the thing. She never actually said Kavanaugh was the one who was part of the gang that went after her. She only says he was there for some of them. So she doesn't even have to directly accuse him of this. Which they don't actually need to call her. She only needs to say he's there, and they have it.
Yeah, well,
Which-
you would think that she would be going after the people who actually did this, and then being, oh, Kavanaugh didn't stop them. Okay, but who actually did the rape? That's those people. If they did this, and they did this for years, apparently, they deserve to be behind bars right now. What? Where's the investigation? What's going on there? If Kavanaugh was a part of it, well, then he should be in jail, and they should leverage that for him to name names of the other participants. Nothing of that sort is going on right now. So, I mean, that's just like...
Yeah.
If this was legitimate, this would be like a horror story in American history.
Yeah,
I was
and
like, dude, that's people were going insane over the Duke lacrosse team that got accused of doing something similar, and you're like, that was just an accusation that was turned out to be false. But I mean, like, this is 10 times the Duke lacrosse scandal, and the Duke lacrosse scandal was nationwide for years. I mean, they were still talking about it even after it was disproven and all that sort of thing. But for some reason, the Kavanaugh thing, they're not running with that same, like, oh, dude, we need to get these guys and put them in jail. No, they're just focused on Kavanaugh. Which...
Yeah. And a good thing, though, to point out to everybody, even to people like Hawk, for God's sake, this shit will affect someone for a long time, if not for life, if you make an accusation against them. So let's say the Senate denies Kavanaugh the position. They reject him. I'm willing to bet this is going to follow him around perhaps for the rest of his life.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's obvious. Like, if he doesn't get SCOTUS, his life is over no matter what. Like, if he doesn't become a member of the Supreme Court and be able to rise above this, then everything else is done. He can no longer coach
on the federal circuit.
He can no longer coach soccer.
Keep that showing blue.
He can no longer... No, he can't even keep his job at the circuit court because he's being accused of a crime, right? If he's being accused of rape, and then they're like, oh, well, you didn't get to be Supreme Court Justice because of that accusation, right? So you're guilty of the rape, and then you're guilty of lying under... I mean, that's grounds for disbarment and also jail time, right? That's the conclusion that has to be drawn, is you didn't make it to SCOTUS, all these accusations against you are true, you lied to the Congress. So why should we have you as a judge? The Ninth Circuit it's not a lifetime appointment. He can get fired, and if you get a court case and Kavanaugh is your judge, dude, that entire case gets thrown out because you're like, oh well, obviously Kavanaugh. I mean, he's a serial rapist. And, like, his the only reason he has his particular position right now as a Ninth Circuit judge is because of his reputation, and his reputation is completely shot. If he is not a reputable, somebody with a good standing in society, his judgment would be completely invalidated. So after this, if he doesn't get the SCOTUS nomination and doesn't get approved, and his judgments will be, I mean, lawyers will be taking that like, oh no, Kavanaugh's decision. Kavanaugh really the guy who gang raped people, or Kavanaugh really the guy who held down that one woman and tried to rape her but he passed out? That guy? Dude.
Wait, if he passed out, then how the fuck would you not be able to have him arrested? If he's passed out, you have ample opportunity to call the police and have his ass arrested.
Yeah, that's Ford's claim, but if you were a defense lawyer and Kavanaugh was your judge, oh, dude, you would use Kavanaugh's reputation, like this whole circus thing. You would use that for every defense case that came through that court. His verdicts on everything, his judgments on anything, would be taken to the appellate court. Yeah. So if every single one of his cases that he rules on gets appealed, he serves no function as a judge.
He may as well resign.
Exactly. And so, like he said in his testimony, he's like, yeah, he can't coach soccer, the girls' basketball team anymore. No, what parents are going to allow him to coach their girls, right? After this, if even half of them are uncertain about it, it's like, dude, I trust you, I think you're good, but there's no way I'm leaving you alone with my teenage daughter. It's not going to happen. Schools can't deal with that. Like, they would have to kick him out and be like, dude, I'm with you, I agree, I know you're an honorable, upstanding man, but with all the backlash, if we leave you as the coach of our team, people are going to start taking their kids away from the school, or they're not going to bring them to our sports team is gone. Schools can't afford that sort of thing. All of the stuff that he currently does is completely neutralized.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, it's like this whole thing should be about, the temperament and the judgment of Kavanaugh. This hearing should be more, is this man qualified to serve on the highest court in the land until he resigns, retires, is removed, or dies?
Yeah.
That should be, this is what it should be about. And I've always found it hilarious, the convenience of it all. This shit doesn't surface for years. But when he's being considered for the Supreme Court, or if someone's being considered for president, then the allegations, then they feel comfortable.
It's not even during the nomination process. It's after he's been chosen to be the one.
Well, after the nomination process.
So here's the other thing. She submitted that to Feinstein when his name came up on the list of potential nominees. Mm-hmm. They did a bunch of hearings prior to Ford's allegation coming forward. Why wasn't that top billing, right?
Yeah.
Kavanaugh gets the nomination, first round of hearings. By the way, somebody's accusing you of rape. But no. That doesn't come up the first hearing. It doesn't come up the second hearing. It doesn't come up until it looks like they've exhausted all their other options. What? She sat on that for weeks. So she knew about that in June. It is what? It's like September?
Almost October.
It is, it was at least mid-September before anybody heard or anybody got any kind of whiff of, oh, wait, what? There's some kind of sexual assault allegation against him? Yeah. Why didn't that come out in June or July? Because he was, I think he was announced as the nominee in July, right? The first week of July or something like that?
It's pretty soon.
Yeah, it was somewhere around the first or second week of July, and they waited till September to bring this to light. That's if you have this. I mean, this if true, if he did do, if he did this thing, this is their nuclear bomb. This is their what else you got? This is their ace in the hole. That's what you lead with. You don't wait till all of your it's like, well, all my other okay, let's just no. You start off with the shock and awe. You drop the bomb on them, and then they're scrambling around. And you're like, okay, yeah, I guess his nomination is gone.
Unless if you're playing games with it.
Yeah, unless you're playing, which is what the Republicans have been calling him out on him today. Is like, yeah, you guys are just delaying, hoping that you win the House, or hoping that you flip some Democratic seats, and then you can forestall this nomination. And then once if the Democrats get control of Congress and can. Then Trump's not going to get any other nominee passed through because you guys are just going to delay for his entire term, or I mean, you guys are just going to shoot down all of his nominees.
I think that personally, if they do that, I would never ever vote Democratic ever. I mean, here's the thing, right? I didn't approve of the Republicans obstructing Obama's Supreme Court nominee, but I mean, especially to the level the Democrats are doing right now, it's like you guys are so like the amount of hypocrisy is overwhelming. Like, if there was actual evidence that Brett Kavanaugh was a rapist, I would be on the Democrats' side.
Oh yeah.
But if there's none, and anyone that says they're inclined to believe, then to believe the victim, even when there's no proof, I hope that person gets accused of a crime and it ruins their life. Because that's basically what they're in favor of.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not even... Well, first of all, we actually forgot someone. There's another accuser, Deborah Ramirez, who spent 6 days talking with her lawyer, trying to figure out who it was. And then after talking to some Democratic staffers, too, she decided it was Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who exactly raped me, but it was definitely this guy who's up for...
Well, think about it for 6 days first. You might be wrong.
I that never makes sense. Ham doesn't... I'm seeing Ham not in the live chat, in the fucking
Poor bastards, yeah.
In the poor bastards chat saying, who is Christine Blasney Ford or whatever the fuck her name is? Oh,
not know.
I don't know. And Darkcon says, have you all talked about Kavanaugh's support of NSA spying as reported by the Washington Examiner? Well, we're just covering the accusations, but DarkCon, what he's asking to me is a good question, but I would expand on it more than that. I would say that, if I was in the Senate, I would vote against Kavanaugh's confirmation for that.
Yeah.
For his support of NSA spying.
This is something like looking at Kavanaugh's record and all this stuff. So a lot of things I've heard about him is like as far as his voting record and his stance. He's not that great on the Constitution.
Yeah.
He's not that great when it comes to defending the American people versus their government. He's very moderate, which I personally don't like. I would prefer someone who is more right-leaning. What was the name of the other lady, the one that they proposed?
Amy Barrett.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, her. I would prefer her over Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
But... I mean, she's not my ideal candidate either, but seems a lot, she's a lot more staunch on some of these issues where Kavanaugh's kind of like, well, I mean, the law technically, he's more technicality minded, which is like, well, when it comes to the Constitution, you have to look at the intention, not really technically how it's written. And your defense of the NSA is kind of like, well, technically written, it's not a violation. I'm like, no. You're going against the principle when you're focused on the technicalities, but that's Kavanaugh. So I'm like, as far as him as a Supreme Court nominee, I don't like it. But the way that the Democrats have been running his name through the mud, I'm like, dude, I don't want him on the Supreme Court justice, but I don't want him falsely accused of rape and having his life completely ruined like this.
Yeah, and it's like if we're going to talk about nominees for the Supreme Court, we should choose one, that, and I hate how the Supreme Court has evolved into, the two parties are thinking, okay, are we going to have a liberal or conservative majority on the court? I hate that so much It's like we should say Blue. Sorry, just seeing what you're. God damn it, Blue. But anyway, yeah, it's like we
What?
should choose a Supreme Court justice that is, they will, like, I don't mind those who are, like they want to find what the Constitution means for certain, not this technicality shit. We should find a Supreme Court nominee that says, all right, this is what the Constitution, yes, this is what it says, and this is what it means, so they can interpret it as fairly and accurately as possible. We shouldn't be giving a damn whether or not they're conservative or liberal. I mean,
it should be whether they abide by the principles that founded this country, whether they, like, so I still have yet to hear any high-ranked politician or judge talk about the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist Papers and the adoption or ratification of the Constitution to begin with. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
you have to know that if you are part of the body that's supposed to be interpreting what is constitutional and isn't constitutional. You should know what the people who wrote the damn thing think about it.
yeah, and I didn't like how he's being so indecisive on several things where it's like, like there's several issues where it might provoke a lot of, it makes you question a lot of things. But I still think you could give just a straight answer, yes or no. Like, I saw Senator Kamala Harris of California asking whether or not, I don't know why the fuck she brought this up, but she mentioned something about, it was something about the Charlottesville riots and whether or not there was blame on both sides. I'm like, this happened a fucking year ago. What does this matter? And then there was someone asking, I think it was her as well, or another senator, asked about Roe v. Wade, and he wouldn't give a decisive answer on it. It's like, if you're against it, just fucking answer it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've looked at the Senate. There's like a majority of the Senate that are Republicans, and I think he has a shot, unless several of them, and I can predict a few who will vote no, but I can predict at least 3 senators. I would be shocked if they voted yes. But it's like, just answer the question. Don't flake on it. Don't Senator flake on it. Just answer the question. Like, okay, so the 3 senators for the record are Senators Flake of Arizona, Murkowski of Alaska, and Collins of Maine. And why I think Murkowski is, you look at her electoral history, every time she narrowly wins. And she only won in 2010 because of a write-in campaign. She lost the primary, won re-election due to only a write-in campaign. She's never won more than 40% of the vote in a solid red state. That says a lot when you can't even get 50% of the people to say, "Yeah, I want you as my senator." Come on. But and a lot of them are demanding that she votes no. And if she votes yes, she's fucked. They're going to vote her out. But I mean, like, this is what the hearing should be about. They should be, if this guy understands the Constitution, and like what we've said a few minutes ago, it shouldn't be of whether or not he is a rapist. If he is a rapist, if they can prove he's a rapist, then of course he should not get he should not be
that's
confirmed.
And no conservative disagrees with that.
Yeah, if he is guilty of this, he should not only not get confirmed, he should be in jail jail or worse. That's the that should be the stance. However, I don't think he did any of it, because if you look at his, so this is something one of the other senators said, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what people need to be focused on, is if somebody who is willing to hold a woman down, muffle her screams, and try to rape her and choke her while doing so, that doesn't stop after high school. That's not a one-time thing. That is, something is wrong in their head. There's a history of this that would come out. People like that do not stop with one. They keep going.
Yeah, that's like serial killer material.
Yes.
Like if you catch your kid abusing an animal, I mean, the chances of that person becoming a serial killer are pretty damn high.
Yeah, it's like saying, oh, well, this person chopped up somebody and then severed the head and then performed fellatio with the head, but that was just a one-time thing. That was just a one-time thing. They only did it once. They haven't done it since then. They did that when they were in high school, and now they've never done it. No, people like that do that and worse. They get worse.
Yeah.
Like that is so. I mean, I'm not. I'm not bringing up that example as something kind of absurd and crazy, because that is the exact example from Mindhunters. That the guy that they're interviewing in that particular, I forget the actual name of the serial killer, this real life serial killer. He was in his 18 or 20. He killed his mom, cut off her head, performed fellatio with the head, and then went on to do that and other things on the same lines. It wasn't just the, oh, well, he did it once and then never did it again. No, that was his hit, that was his brand, and it got to the point where he was doing it so often he thought someone would catch him, and they didn't, and he's finally said, well, you guys aren't going to catch me. I'm just turning myself in. I can't stop myself, and you guys are doing a terrible job of stopping me.
God damn it.
They wouldn't have caught him. But once they started seeing the facts, it was so overwhelming. They're like, yeah, there's too much here. How did we miss this sort of thing? And that's what the thing is. If any of these allegations were remotely true, that prying into that just a little bit would open a floodgate of all of these incidents that, oh, this guy's got a history of, and he's got the opposite of that going. He's got all these people who knew him back then and who know him now who are coming to his defense and saying, no, this is not the type of person, that this is nothing like the character of this guy. So, like, even going back to someone as famous as Jeffrey Dahmer, right? So Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer, killing people and eating them. And some of his neighbors and stuff were like, oh, yeah, I'd never expected that. But some of the people who knew him were kind of like, yeah, we always thought there was something slightly off. I mean, we could never put... Like, when you're listening to interviews of these people, they're always like, they never realized it was to that extreme. But none of them came away saying, oh, yeah, I defend this guy. This guy, there's no way he could have possibly... No, they were kind of like, man... They either didn't expect it, or they were kind of like, man, I knew there was something off, but I didn't realize it would, to what extent. It wasn't no one came to Jeffrey Dahmer's defense. No one was saying, what? There's no way he could have done this. No one was saying, no, 65 people are gonna write a letter saying, like, no, this guy, no, that didn't happen. Nobody defends someone who is to that level, like somebody who is a serial rapist. Nobody comes to their defense and saying, oh no, he's just misunderstood. Well, I mean, once they're in jail, they've got, like, crazy fan ladies or whatever. But nobody who knows them...
Like Ted Bundy.
Yeah, those are after the fact. People who get to know them after they've been caught and convicted. But nobody who knows them during the trial and during the investigation, nobody comes to their defense, like 65 of them saying, no, this is not the character of the person that you guys are... It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
He would
gets to this point of absurdity.
Yeah. He would be the first rapist in the history of the world to have all these people come to his defense saying he's never done anything like this.
Yeah, and honestly, it gets to this point of absurdity where it's like, okay, like one accusation of rape, it's like, could it be credible? Maybe. But after a while, it's like, when you have all those accusations, and people say, 50 or 60 women accuse Bill Cosby of sexual assault. Like, that doesn't matter. You still have to prove it. Now, do I think Bill Cosby's a rapist? I think there's a strong chance. I think there's a strong chance. And he's been convicted, but...
So with the Bill Cosby incident, it's not just the accusations.
Yeah.
It's the accusations that are corroborated.
Yeah.
These women go into details describing the incidents that occurred, and there are hotel records, there are receipts, there are locations that they can verify. Like, oh, yeah, he was in this city when this woman claims that this incident occurred. Yes, people did see these two people together at the time. Oh, okay. That adds credibility to these women's testimony against Bill Cosby. There is so many other people around the incident that were like, yeah, we saw them at the bar talking and they left together. There's not even the only people who would be able to say something like that about the Kavanaugh incident actively deny. They actively say it never happened.
Yeah, and the people in the Poor Bastards chat who are siding with Christine Blasey Ford,
Mm-hmm.
they're saying this does not look good for her. Yeah, it's Christine Blasey Ford. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
Blasey.
that was the other thing that pissed me off about these hearings. These Democratic senators are like, "Oh yeah, she's got nothing to gain from this, and she's a hero, and we're real proud." I'm like, "Nothing to gain? Are you guys out of your freaking minds? Nothing to gain?"
Yeah, she has quite a bit to gain.
She is,
She destroys this
yeah.
man's career, and now she gets famous from it.
Well,
And
yeah. There's the fame angle, but she's already been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. She's like, she's already making money off of this more than she would doing whatever she does for a living.
Well, I think I know one of those GoFundMe's was a fake. One of them got proved to be a fake.
So one of those was a fake, yeah.
But what
Speaking
I'm
of
going to say
fake,
is, I don't necessarily think she is lying in her mind. Okay, I'm going to put that out here right now. She talked about this back in 2012 with the therapist. That was when Obama was in power and Kavanaugh was not going to be appointed to the Supreme Court by him. So I feel like it's possible she's thinking this, but at the same time, I'm going to have to see the evidence. I'm going to have to see the evidence.
Okay, and about that, when she talked to her therapist, the name of the individual involved was not mentioned to the therapist, or at least the therapist did not write it down. So what I think happened is the person, this may have happened where she was at a party and was raped, but the events of that incident have been changed for this political angle. That seems more likely to me because the details were filled in after the fact. The outline at the therapist, that's just the outline, and the details have been filled in. Like, oh, it was Kavanaugh and Judge, and both women.
That's something fascinating also that I heard is she said it was in quote unquote indelible in the hippocampus region of her brain that she knew 100% sure it was them, but she couldn't name a week. She couldn't name where it was. She couldn't name some of the other people at the party. None of them remember it. She couldn't remember how she got there or how she got home. But she can remember this one incident. And the funny thing is, I've studied a little bit on trauma and criminal forensics, and very often, people who are victims of this kind of assault can name you every single last detail, like a photographic memory, up until the actual assault itself, and then it's blank. And the trauma wipes it out. But we have an exact inverse here, which I have no idea. That's...
Yeah, well, that was something Crowder brought up when he was interviewing Juanita Broaddrick, who is accused Bill Clinton of rape. She knew the exact time and date, the name of the hotel, people who she told about the incident immediately, the people who back up her story. There's so much record, and she knows so she was able to recall the incidents or the details of the incident. So some of the other victims or whatever, they blotted out, and I'm not going to go into details, but someone in my family has had a similar incident, and for years they had blocked all that out. And so I don't know if this particular individual remembers the exact details of the incident, but they knew enough about it to testify in court and put the guy behind bars, and that's where the scumbag can rot for the rest of his life. So I don't know, because I wasn't in town for the whole court case and all that sort of thing, but other members, other people I know were. But the details provided by this individual were enough to stand up to scrutiny in court. And they're like, yeah, this happened because there's enough here to go off of. There's enough corroboration. There's saying, oh, I don't even remember the year, because this is the silly or the frustrating thing about this is she said probably 1982. She wasn't even sure of the year until questioned about it, and then she finally picked a year, because when it was first announced, it was just a summer. And there was so I don't even think she said a summer.
Summer, early 1980s.
Yeah,
somewhere
early 1980s. It was like a ballpark, and you're like, wait, you don't remember the exact year?
And that's another thing. The FBI already got a chance to kind of look at this and see if they can investigate, and they said, we can't. There's nothing more we can do with this.
Okay, here's the other thing about the FBI investigation. This is not a federal crime. The FBI actually doesn't have jurisdiction on this. This would be the Montgomery, because I think he said Montgomery County was the county of that this occurred in the state.
What state is this in?
Maryland.
Like, I don't remember. Maryland.
Yeah, so Maryland, and I believe it's Montgomery County. That's who actually has the jurisdiction and could investigate this and should investigate this if this is a credible crime. And there, as said previously, there's no statute of limitations on this. So
Yeah.
they're the authority in that area. They've got the jurisdiction. They don't need anything else. Now, as far as looking for evidence, what Congress can do right now is they can request the FBI investigate, and the FBI, in their investigation, will go to the local authorities and pull up all the evidence the local authorities have on this, and then file a report based on all that evidence. As far as investigating anything themselves, that's not what the FBI does. They resort to the local authorities and what the local authorities were able to do. That's what they do throughout, because the local authorities are the ones who collect all the evidence for the crimes, and the FBI investigate based on the evidence collected by the local authorities. Like, what other thing could the FBI possibly do on top of that? Do they have time travel powers? Do they? Yeah. Well, we can go to the house that we don't. She doesn't even know what the freaking house is. There's no, like, the crime scene itself doesn't exist in the way that it was, but they don't even know, like, they can't even pin down a county where the house is or where the crime scene supposedly occurred. Okay, let's just canvass all of Massachusetts or
Maryland.
All of Maryland in hopes that we find a house that they may have had a party in 35 years ago. Dude,
Hey, so Hawk is in the Poor Bastards chat.
I know, I saw that.
Is in the Never Believe Survivors camp.
I saw
Here's
that.
the thing.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this.
Never believe Survivor? What?
So Hawk, everyone, is officially autistic. I am not gonna throw due process out the window.
You need evidence that he's autistic.
You know what? He doesn't care about evidence, so I can make that claim, and I don't have to provide evidence for it because he made the precedent for that.
No,
I swear to God.
When someone makes an accusation, you accept that accusation and you start investigating to confirm whether that accusation is true or not.
And that's what Me Too is about. It's about if a woman comes forward saying she was sexually assaulted, it's important to look into it. You can't ignore it. You have to. And I ask for evidence because I want to know the truth. That's it. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, because if we know the truth, we have won something out of that whole thing. You know? Like there was a quote HUMANe kept stating when it comes to debates that, you might lose a debate, but you win the truth, or however it's phrased. I'm like, that's pretty
like
true.
When I lose a debate, I win the truth. That's
why if I lose a debate, I don't take it that hard because I'm like, hey, I won the truth, so I got to benefit from the debate. So I mean, this is not a criminal trial.
All right, so Cruz is now interviewing him, so I'm gonna.
Explaining these attacks that the media is airing. I also
I'm just gonna type in all caps because he deserves it. Fuck it.
the American people set aside.
Also, that's another thing. They're saying this is not a criminal trial. We know that it's still important to have evidence for claims. I mean,
okay,
God.
so. And this is something that's been pointed out, is yes, this is not a court case. He is not being brought up, although if this happened, this should go to court. Like, why the hell is there not a effort or push to see this go to court? That's ridiculous on the accuser's part. Like, yes, if he did this is not the arena to fight this. And the arena to fight this is in the court system. Through a proper police report, criminal investigation, civil investigation, however they want to do that, whatever the most effective way of getting this guy to serve or to be punished for what he has done, if he did this. But the thing is, even if it's not a criminal investigation, you are still protected by your right to privacy and your right to due process outside of a criminal investigation, right? Outside of a criminal prosecution. That
Yeah,
right
and also
exists without the Constitution. Your right to face your accuser, your right to have the right to be to your privacy, and if an investigation occurs, the mandate that a judge judge approve that you be investigated, and that in order to give police the authority to search through your belongings and all that sort of thing. Those aren't, even though those particular rights are stated in the Bill of Rights, you have them even if they weren't in the Bill of Rights, because that goes back to natural rights. The Bill of Rights is, these rules are in place for the government to protect the citizens' natural rights. It's not like it's granting you those rights. It's saying you have these rights, therefore the federal government can't abuse them. It's a restriction on government. It's not establishing what you have the right of. So this is that's goes back to people's fundamental misunderstanding of where rights come from and what the Constitutional Bill of Rights actually is talking about. It's saying because you have these rights, the federal government cannot ever make a law that encroaches upon these rights.
Yeah, and for instance, on the whole due process thing, I hope everyone is aware, for those that are watching, we all, just for the record, understand that due process is thrown out the window if someone confesses. So if, like, Kavanaugh said that he did those things, then fuck yeah, I'd be like, okay, he has confessed this nomination process is over, arrest him.
Well,
you said the statute of limitations is, there's no statute of limitations on rape in Maryland, right?
Yeah. So the sexual assault for Ford, there is no statute of limitations on that. The gang rapes, there is no statute of limitations on that. The what was the other thing he was being accused of? The showing his penis.
To Deborah Ramirez.
Yeah, that particular thing, I don't believe that is covered under statute of limitations. So I think that particular incident, there's nothing that can be prosecuted, because that is kind of like a misdemeanor or something. I mean, even though it is.
Well, we don't know what it is, because she doesn't even remember what happened properly. Because one of the people who kind of tried to verify it said that someone did something with a fake dildo and tried to simulate that. So it could be it was someone entirely different who didn't even actually assault her, and it was just kind of like a prank.
Yeah, well, it could.
We don't even know what happened.
Yeah, so we don't even know the details. But as far as that particular incident, there was supposedly a fake penis being passed around the party and that sort of thing. But there's two possibilities: that Kavanaugh whipped his own thing out in order to try to trick her into thinking it was the fake one, or put the fake penis through his zipper and pretended that was his real penis. And so one of those two incidents. However, if it was his real penis, that's a pretty dick thing to do. Is that? No, that's a. Although, having been at certain parties where there's lots of drinking and other nonsense and high school and college shenanigans, that sort of thing is not unheard of. Even in my own kind of sheltered experiences, because I've been to parties where people have put hot dogs through their zippers and pretended like, oh, hey, this is my peanut, and walked around a party, and then people are like, oh, wait, oh, okay, never mind. So that sort of thing has happened. That seems more likely, but I've also heard of parties that I was not at where people just randomly whipped out their balls or something like that, and I don't know.
Something interesting about I just was thinking, we're talking in the chat also about this. People were comparing it to Roy Moore. Number one, there were multiple corroborative testimonies. There were multiple people at the time who've been told. There were basic lies that he had that we could tell. But my thing is, he passed a polygraph. So did Christine Blasey Ford, and they're using that. Oh, she passed a polygraph; she's credible. So did Roy Moore. Let's see that double standard. But then the greatest part about that is, whenever she was asked, did she know who paid for it? Her lawyer interjected and said that's privileged information, which is not a good look.
Yeah. Well, and then later on, they claimed that the lawyers paid for it, and the lawyers are working pro bono, but there's also been, I think, her lawyers are supposedly working pro bono, but previously they were talking about the GoFundMe, but they were also talking about Democrat sponsors, well, both being the ones who led her to those particular lawyers, but also who offered to pay. So, yeah. The whole polygraph thing is, why do people still use that? It's been so utterly disproven. It is not reliable. It is not admissible as court evidence.
Yeah,
You can
yeah. So, like, Ted Bundy could take a polygraph test.
Oh,
all you have to do is just, hell, you could just move your arm, not like to the point of where like there'd be a noticeable gust of wind, just a little bit. You could just be a little nervous. It will affect the whole outcome unless you behave or physically act a certain way.
Yeah.
You could literally flip the results.
So there are specific things that you can do to trick the polygraph. So whether you can do this on purpose or not. So when they first establish your readings, they ask you a series of questions, and they're like, answer these truthfully, and then it gauges your responses, right? So you answer like your name, your address, basic information, and then they ask you things, and they tell you to lie, and you're like, okay, well then you can go through and you answer these questions, and you say things that are outright lies. So what people who are trained to trick the polygraph test do is they either induce some kind of physical pain when they're telling a lie, and then when they're telling something that's the truth, all they do is don't induce that pain. When they're telling something that they're trying to pass off as the truth, they don't do that same thing. So they can. So there's. These are. This is talking about like CIA tactics and things like that, where they will sometimes they'll have an injury that they already. It's either a pre-existing injury, or they will injure themselves, and then every time for that lie section, they will push on that injury. Like if it's a broken toe or something like that, in their foot, they will push down on that toe, which triggers a response through their body, through their nervous system, and that's what the polygraph is reading, is that sense of pain. And so then when they're lying, or when they're lying and pretending it's the truth, they simply don't push down on their toe. They're lying, their measurements change slightly because your body naturally reacts when you know you're lying. But the polygraph doesn't detect what it's looking for when it's expecting to hear a lie. So there's various ways. There's so many people who have disproven polygraph tests and taken it like that. Second thing is, the polygraph test has no bearing if the individual taking it thinks they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
If I believe that I am Napoleon, I can pass a polygraph where saying I'm Napoleon Bonaparte and announcing all kind. If I believe that I can fly, like crazy people pass a polygraph test. People who think that that monsters are raping them at night, or people who think that what's some other crazy things, that there's bugs under their skin, they can pass a polygraph test. I'm like, well, pass a polygraph test. I guess there's bugs under this guy's skin.
For the record, HUMANE is as short as Napoleon Bonaparte, so...
Oh, yeah. So, that's why I've got that Napoleon complex. So the other thing about polygraphs is they do not work on sociopaths. They do not work on people who lie
It doesn't even
without
work on
changing...
people who are every day forget things and try to remember them and come up with the wrong conclusions.
That's the other thing.
It doesn't work on so many different people.
Yeah, it doesn't work if you make something up, because as far as you know, that's not a lie. You can make something up, like, oh, well, I think this is what happened, or this probably could have happened. Well, the lie detector test is not going to register something drastically different from your normal responses, because as far as you can tell, you didn't. You just thought you just did what you thought was right, or you're doing what you thought was the truth. Doesn't mean that what you said actually was true. So,
and hey, I'm gonna put a quick disclaimer right here in the video for anyone watching who's anti-Kavanaugh, who believes Ford. Listen, all I ask is you give us evidence. And
Yeah.
I will look at 100% anything you give us, and I'll go through it. But it's the only thing I can go off of. I don't
Yeah.
know. You don't know. The only people who know what really happened are gonna be Ford and Kavanaugh. And even then, they might be misremembering. That's the amazing thing. The people who are supposedly involved might not even know. That's the amazing thing about this, and everyone is preaching
Yes.
on their high horse,
Well,
and it is killing me.
that is why personal testimony is the most unreliable piece of evidence in any court case.
Yeah.
Individual testimony is unreliable. They go to the evidence to support those testimony claims. They have to. If you all you have is personal testimony, that case will either get thrown out or whoever is making the accusations, their case will not a lot of time doesn't go to court if there's no evidence, because the judge looks at it and is like, there's not enough to go off of to even bring this to trial. But the other thing is, if it does go to trial, that's the person who is being accused. If there is no evidence to support the accusation, they will walk free, and due to double jeopardy laws, they can't be tried again for that crime. This is part of the reason. This is the O.J. Simpson thing. It's like there was evidence, but there was not enough evidence to support the testimony of the people, which is why and there was a whole lot of faulty collection of the evidence, and a lot of the ignorance on the jury's part when it came to DNA evidence that was presented. But the jury ruled, that not guilty, because the only evidence that they thought was credible linking to OJ being guilty was personal testimony. The evidence to support the testimony was called into question, and when that was called into question and they couldn't believe the evidence as being, supporting OJ being guilty, they had to ultimately rule, like, well, all we have is these accusations, and the evidence presented against them doesn't look like it's good evidence, so we're going to say not guilty. I mean, there's a whole lot that went wrong with that particular incident, but he had people saying that he had did the thing, but those testimonies didn't mean jack squat to the jury. And I think rightfully so, but I think the jury didn't put enough weight on the actual evidence, because the DNA evidence presented, you're like, that should have been the nail in the coffin there, but I don't know what the...
But I think Johnny Cochran, OJ's lawyer, was all anti-DNA, and a while later he comes out in support of it. It's like, okay then. Whatever.
But, yeah, so what I was trying to make the statement there is, there's plenty of people who have had just accusations against them where they've gotten verdicts of not guilty, even though everybody's kind of like, I'm pretty sure they did it, but there's no evidence behind it. A pure testimony it will not work in the court of law. The odds of you being convicted is very, very low, and if you are convicted, it's going to go to appeal, and the appellate court is going to rule in favor of the defendant. If all the prosecution has is testimony, there is no way that person is going to serve time for that.
Do you know what amazes me with the group chat right now? We just went through this exact same thing with Zoe, where many times she lied straight to our face, and I didn't suspect her for a long time. Not even a bit. People do this. People can do that. People can misremember. People can lie, and you won't know. You won't.
Yeah, that's
why individual testimony is not reliable, because people can lie. People can misremember facts. People can believe something that is outright wrong.
Yeah, and it was fucking... it was embarrassing realizing how we got fucking duped over this. The thing that pisses me off the most is the biggest clue is right in front of our faces with... Governor Mike Pence changed the law. But at the time this happened, I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
Bitch! That's not how the law works! If it was federal law, then this wouldn't happen whatsoever. Because did it happen in either state?
Yeah,
God, this is why evident. This is why I ever since then I've been moving hardcore in the direction of if you're saying something happened, like I should have fact checked that. That just always sounded too bad
that's
to be
what
true.
we just. So at the time, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound. I remember saying that doesn't sound like Pence, and then I go back and I'm like, there's no record of this law changing in the past. You know, not only not under Mike Pence, but there's no record of this law actually ever being changed in any way. This was in a completely different state. So Indiana and Illinois, not the same place.
Yeah.
So how did he change
I
the
even
laws in your state? The other thing is Pence would have been governor. The governor doesn't make the law.
He can sign the law. He can have a state congressman or state senator, kind of like what the president does. You could probably say, hey, you could probably suggest it, but you can't actually push it through. You'd have to be either a congressman or a senator.
So So I mean, not to go too much into detail about that particular individual, the individual was making claims, and we, as a group, were like, okay, that's I guess sounds legit. But the more we looked into it, the more we're like, wait a minute, this isn't adding up. This person is lying. So we took the stance of believe, and well, I mean, I don't know if I include myself in that, in as far as the. I mean, I guess I should. It's like the believe and be like, okay, that sounds terrible. That's pretty bad. And without any actual proof or asking for proof, we just kind of accepted it as the claim was being laid out. But
it's being supportive. It's trying to be nice and maybe looking at the facts, but being nice, being supportive, trying to get the evidence though.
But when we tried to look into the evidence, we're like, no, these claims are all BS, and this entire person's history is actually
bullshit. And
there's so many other incidents that don't. Everything this person has said to us is probably a lie.
Yeah, especially the medical information that I got from HUMANE and even from Conundrum, who said that actually she would have been poisoned to death had her legs been crushed in a certain way. Something about the tibia or fibia. There's some type of toxin in there apparently, which I'm gonna have to. Which I've dubbed.
Bone marrow goes straight into the bloodstream and can mess you up.
It will fuck you up. So it might not kill you, but you will be in a fucked up state. And it's like. And it's like all this information, all this evidence was overwhelming. And the thing is, I have to say, HUMANE, I felt like there was a definite balance of power in the sense of we all felt like a lot of people said they wouldn't say anything about it because they were like, yeah, there's something not right. But they felt like if they said anything, it would be like the severe backlash. So they kept quiet because they felt like if they said anything... Blue. Oh, I'd actually pay money to see that. Fun fact. But anyway, it's like, but it's like a balance of power where they're like, they don't want to be mean. They don't want to look like they're being mean to her, so they won't say it. I felt like there was a definite power. There was a definite power dynamic in that whole disaster.
So the other thing about this particular individual is, after hearing the details of the supposed crime against her and her sister, looking at the history of Chicago and Illinois, there have been books written about crimes that only deal with like 10%, like best-selling books and like horrific crimes that are broadcast all over the news and sort of thing. It's like, if this actually occurred at the time period that she's saying it happened, this would have gotten a lot more coverage, because like one of the things I thought was like, oh hey, I think I found an example, or I think I may have found a news report on this particular incident, and it ended up being two completely different individuals. And what had happened is they were abducted from a gas station, they were driven out onto a bridge, beat over the head, raped, and then thrown over the bridge, and that was national news, and that was, it's got all kinds of coverage, and I'm like, that is not, that is a horrific event, but compare that to the event described by this other individual where they're talking about, being kidnapped and tortured for several days and being repeatedly violated. Yeah. And you're like, that would have, right? That's the bigger, that's a bigger story.
This would have, Yeah, and besides, regardless of whether this happened in Illinois or Indiana, this would have been on the news.
Yeah.
If Governor Pence would have actually changed the laws, we would have heard something about it. We probably would have done a stream talking
But
about it.
it would
being,
actually be
you
in
know?
the laws themselves because they specify, okay, this law was changed and this is the year that this particular change occurred.
Yeah,
That's in the law.
yeah.
You can go through and read each point. It's like, yes, this particular section was added or modified this year, and then you can go back to the records and be like, okay, then what did it say before this year? So
Yeah.
that, as far as all of that, yeah. So there's a whole lot of problems with this person's statement. But according to people like Secular Hawk and all that sort of thing, looking into even bother to scrutinize this individual's story, no, shouldn't do it. Just listen and believe. That should have been our stance according to the people who are, who support Blasey Ford. They're like,
And
oh
yeah,
no, don't even bother to double check this or to look at the evidence or to see if the evidence matches up. No, don't even do that. Just listen and believe. I'm like, well, if we listen and believe, we'd still believing that this, this woman was raped and has, her raped and then her sister was killed in the incident and then she's permanently disabled but can still walk.
Yeah.
And drive and
And here's the worst part about all this is she didn't actually name anyone. You know?
yeah, she could have actually, because there was a shooting in my town, and I actually showed y'all an article about it. I could prove that shooting happened.
Yeah.
She couldn't even do that.
Yeah, but the other thing is, but this person had this traumatic event happen, but they're so good and so virtuous that they don't even want the monsters who did it to see the death penalty. I'm like,
Well, I think she did. I mean, the way she talked about it, she'd get pretty angry about it.
Yeah, and
no, she was using that as a reason. She was using that entire story against the death penalty. She was talking about how
she was.
Yes, she was actually. She's arguing against the death penalty and was like, "Oh yeah, my mom wanted the death penalty, but I didn't want the death penalty." And I was like,
yeah,
what?
That's fascinating. I didn't know that part.
Yeah,
and the thing is something that I can't remember how you said it, Humane, but it was a very interesting point where it's like, didn't you say something about how she would like? A lot of people say they cannot remember a stream where she did not mention that incident or something about her past. And didn't you say something about how it's like usually people would try not to talk about it?
So this is something, and I'm pretty sure Blue can back me up on this and make sure that I'm not talking out of my ass. But usually, when somebody is a victim of a traumatic experience like that, so rape or kidnapping or something like that, they have two modes. They either shut down completely, right? So then, like, complete cut off from sexual intercourse and all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Or they go the opposite direction, where they start their, like, having multiple partners, complete ambivalence when it comes to sexual. But both of those,
I'll say this: the spectrum does widen, but because so many sexual assault cases, we can't prove whether or not we know anything happened in it. It's a null. Mm-hmm. It's hard to gather information, but the spectrum of behavior does definitely broaden afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
I mean, this is there's a lot of psychology that talk about. So it's either a complete removal from sexual acts, or it doesn't seem to be like, okay, they just go back to the way it was. It has a traumatic effect on their personality. But from what I've seen as far as studies into all this sort of thing, in both cases, the individual involved in the incident doesn't talk openly about that incident.
Yeah, being a motivational speaker, or if you mention it like at a talk, like she claimed that she did that once, if I'm not mistaken. It's like doing that is fine. That I don't have a problem with. But when every time I'm in a hangout with her, she would go into a vivid detail every time. I ended up actually leaving a group chat because I'm like, I'm sorry. I just it's hearing those details over and over and over again. When I first heard it, I almost bawled my eyes out. I'm like, my God. But in hindsight, it's like, okay, if you actually went through that, there was always something where I'm like, okay, how she survived that does not add up.
But I mean, this is someone who's involved in an incident like that, they don't like to talk about it. So this is what I'm saying is from like the psychology perspective, the people who shut down, the reason they shut down is because they don't want to, they don't want to relive that experience, and they think all that experience, they can't separate their sexual and personal interactions from the horrific event, and so they just avoid all personal interactions. The other side of that is the people who kind of go overboard with their sexuality, and they, these are this is the porn industry is a big indicator of this. People who are involved in porn and in prostitution and in pole dancing and a lot of that sort of thing. There's a lot of these women who are the victims of sexual abuse.
Yeah,
I'm not saying everybody who's involved in it. Some of these women just like having sex and like the money and that sort of thing. But there is a disproportionately high amount of them that are the victims of some kind of sexual abuse during their development years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've met people who've had that, who even corroborate that themselves. Either they're like to the point of almost where they're asexual or even aromantic or whatever, and then there's some who are very promiscuous, and it's like, I'd see that, and it makes sense. Like the reasoning for it's like, okay, that does make sense.
And so just this is the case when you're talking about any kind of addictive personality or abuse sort of thing, and that's what kind of happens is that something in their brain triggers and it goes the opposite way, where they develop an addiction for sexual promiscuity I guess sexual stimulation is probably the better way of stating this. Yeah. And so then they use that as a way to avoid dealing with the traumatic event. It's a mask or a cover as they're seeking out the sexual stimulation, so that way they don't have to think about the abuse or the tragic event. And so similar with addicts is like, well, you drink so you don't have to think about something that sucks in your life, or something that an actual problem that you have to deal with, and so instead you bury it under alcohol or under drugs or under gambling or under the addictive personality. So there's a whole lot of psychological studies on this, and Jordan B. Peterson talks about this extensively in his lectures, where he's talking about his actual career, where he was helping people getting through issues, and he was saying it was a lot of the times people had these minor hiccups and these minor little things, but in order to or not minor, maybe they were major, maybe they were crippling, but in order to get to the just fixing that, whatever that issue wasn't the cure. It didn't fixing, like if somebody was in somebody had agoraphobia, yes, he would help them work through that, but if they didn't, or once that was kind of eliminated, he still had to get to the root of the problem. What started their agoraphobic behavior? What was the triggering thing? And that had to be dealt with. Otherwise, they would look to something else to start building up on top of that. Something else to shelter them from dealing with that potential issue. So in order to actually help somebody to live a better life, is not only do you have to strip it down to the core and get to that root, but you have to also excise that root, get them to deal with the core issue. Otherwise, they're going to, hey, you cured my alcohol addiction, and then they're back in a year later, and you're like, well, what's wrong now? Well, now I've got a meth addiction. It's like, you haven't dealt with the core problem, and you're just substituted one addiction with another. And this is similarly true with sex addiction and with the victims of sexual assault and sexual, and traumatic events, is they're using that to avoid dealing with that core problem. And if you cure them of the sex addiction and they no longer start relying, well, then they go to beer, or then they go to something else, because that event hasn't been dealt with adequately. And so then, rather than deal with that, they bury it under other stuff.
I have a real quick update here. According to which one of the senators, the vote is going to be on Friday, as of now.
Okay.
Ooh. So it's gonna be this Friday.
So,
Yeah, as of now.
Oh boy. I think if I think I might do a live stream if I can find a stream where they're announcing the vote. I think I'll do a live stream, and I hope I have Hawk in it. So when Hawk loses his shit, So if Hawk loses his shit, I think Blue is gonna have to mute me because I'm gonna be on the floor laughing my ass off. as Hawk is, in his the peak of puberty, screeching, "No!" I'm just gonna be on the ground dying.
He's gonna be that. Really, he's gonna be doing the Donald Trump like what's that? What is that kid called? Like the one who's like Donald Trump as president. No, no. That's gonna be secular Hawk in real life.
Probably. I honestly, and like I've stated to Hawk before, I don't want Kavanaugh on the court. However, it's like I see no legitimate reason to block the hearing, to block this nomination process. He's already been nominated. I don't see the problem with. I don't see the reason to block the confirmation process, unless the senators vote against him, unless they can prove any of those claims that have been made against him. If they could, I would fully back the idea of saying, okay, these claims have been proven, they're credible. Let's have Kavanaugh arrested. We're stopping this hearing. Mr. President, you're going to need another nominee. I mean, honestly, I think
that would be the way to go.
Yeah, if I was Donald Trump, to be completely honest, I would have dropped Kavanaugh a while ago. I would have, because it's weird. Like a lot of these presidents choose these weird nominees where it's like, it's a bitch to get them confirmed. Like George W. Bush, he chose someone from his chief of staff in the White House. Let me find her name, because it's gonna bother me until I do. But it was a disaster, like a true disaster. 2005, I think it was 2005, because he was trying to have this woman succeed Sandra Day O'Connor. GWB nomination. Let's see if I can find this woman's name. Harriet Miers. Yeah, on October 3rd, 2005, Harriet Miers was nominated for Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court by President George W. Bush to succeed retiring Associate Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. She was at the time White House counsel and had served in both roles during Bush's tenure as governor of Texas and president of the United States. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a huge disaster. A lot of Republicans did not want her on the court, and she withdrew on October 27th when the hearings were to begin on November 7th, and then he nominated Samuel Alito. So I would not be shocked if Trump's nominee was to withdraw himself, which would be a fucking mistake. It's like, you've gone this far. The vote is literally tomorrow. I think you can deal with it for one more day. However, I will be surprised, because I don't know if, it takes a majority of the Senate to confirm him. I don't know if it's going to be confirmation or rejection, because those three senators I named earlier, I think, will probably vote no. Because I think they saw Jeff Flake losing his shit earlier in the hearing.
Yeah, I don't think he is going to get the nomination. Which I think is going to be sad for him and his family.
Here's the thing. If he doesn't get the nomination, I want Republicans, if they get Amy Barron, I still want them to focus on Kavanaugh. I want for months after this to be looking at Kavanaugh and be saying, all right, where's the evidence? Do we have any more? Look at the FBI. Did we ever get any more? And keep pointing back to it.
Yeah,
that needs to be a point.
I think no matter what, these accusations are going to disappear. So you brought up Roy Moore before, and I'm of the opinion that Roy Moore actually didn't do anything wrong. Although it sounds like you're kind of sounds kind of like you're of the other opinion. But this is why I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I don't think Roy Moore actually did anything that was inappropriate, like what he was being accused of. Because as soon as the election was over,
they dropped it.
Yeah, all those accusations dried up. I was like,
yeah. Well, let me just say this. I'll let you respond to it. But the reason why I believe much more about Roy Moore is for a few reasons. Number one, we have people who accused him who were people who voted for Trump. So number one, we can kind of say, all right, it's not direct political bias.
Yeah.
Number two, it was so many people who told at the time, and there were multiple witnesses. And number three, and this is the big one. This is mostly why I did it. It's because he talked about the not knowing the girl, not even signing her yearbook. Then multiple people came out and they said, yes, we know for a fact he had talked to her in the past, and we know for a fact he signed her yearbook. And I spent days looking into the company that did the handwriting analysis. There were two different companies that did it. They seemed completely legit. And so just because he lied about that, if you disagree, you can tell me that big suspicions for me.
Yeah, that to me destroys his credibility. Now, and I mentioned handwriting earlier with Brett Kavanaugh. When people were saying, "Why the hell would you have a calendar from 1982?" and it's like, it's like that to me was the dumbest defense against Kavanaugh. It's like,
Yeah.
hell, it's like then by that logic, why the fuck would you keep yearbooks?
Yeah.
Years after you leave high school. I have kept every yearbook I've had since
Oh.
junior high because I like to look back at it and mock other people's shitty hairstyles and even my own. But it's like, it's like, why the fuck do you care if he's had it for 30 years? What if he's just never gotten rid of it, found it, and he's like, okay, I'm getting accusations that I did such and such in 1982, and he has these things jotted down. It's like, hey, at least he's providing evidence, unlike Christine Blasey Ford.
Yeah.
Unlike the
I
other
think
women.
he may need to respond to what I said because I kind of called him out on that. But yeah.
Yeah, go for it, man.
What? Oh no, as far as the Roy Moore thing, I don't buy the evidence of the yearbook, but that's just me. I mean, and again, it looks like all the accusations against him have been dropped, and there's nothing that's come of that. The only thing that happened was he didn't get the nomination. And as far as the partisan thing goes, as far as, hey, this person voted for Trump, the evidence for that doesn't quite hold up because those particular...
so like they could just say I voted for Trump.
Well, I'm just saying that
that's-
kind of goes against the idea that it was a political plant. I think one of them was a Democrat, but one I know for a fact was a Trump supporter.
Was a Trump supporter, and there's evidence. So that as far as the evidence to back that particular claim up, doesn't seem to be anywhere outside of what that person has stated that they were a Trump supporter, because there's been incidents of that as well where someone will claim to be of a particular political leaning and like see I used to be of this, and then it comes out that no, they actually are registered Democrat. I don't know why they said that they were it.
Well, I thought there would have been like Facebook posts that were like really MAGA 2016 that they were able to find.
Okay.
But I will say this though with Roy Moore, I do hold this on the whole accusations thing. I wasn't sure what to make of them. I'm just saying, like I've held this belief for a long time: due process first. And I'm thinking, okay, is Roy Moore a shitty candidate for the Senate? You're damn right he is. Would he be an awful senator? Yes.
Probably, yeah. Was he better than the other guy? Maybe.
I mean, the guy did not respect the law, so that's why I would not vote for Roy Moore. Is he's not even willing to respect state and federal law. Okay. So to me, it's like his defeat was a good thing in my eyes. I mean, I'm not entirely.
So I would say, while I don't think he was a good candidate, I think that his loss actually set up the Kavanaugh thing. I think it's paved the way. I'm like, well, hey, they know it works. They're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I was looking at the results. It was much. It was not as close as I expected. I was thinking they would both be under 50% of the vote. Jones got 50%, and Roy Moore had like around 49%. And the write-ins it was pretty damning how many write-ins there were. Add all of them to Roy Moore, he would have. I think this would have been where they would mandate a recount, like the margin of victory. He would have narrowly beaten Doug Jones, or if it went to Doug Jones, it would have been a more. He would have defeated him more handily. Is what I'm trying to say.
It was 22,000 votes.
Yeah, 22,000 votes was how many write-ins, and it was around. I think around 22,000 votes was the difference between Moore and Jones, and I think that. And this, I mean, I have to agree with Hawk here, which I can't even believe I'm saying. I think Doug Jones will be unseated in 2020. I don't think the state of Alabama is going to. They are so Republican. I think the accusations against Roy Moore is what was his undoing. In his attempts to be elected.
So I don't think Roy Moore is he running again?
No, he's not.
So they've got a different guy. It's probably a better candidate. So
I hope so.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so he wasn't the best candidate to begin with, and so I'd say this is kind of similar to the Kavanaugh situations where he's kind of a little more moderate, a little more appeasing of the left. well, I shouldn't say moderate because Roy Moore wasn't exactly moderate, but Roy
No,
Moore,
I
don't
think yeah.
I don't think he was a good candidate as far as because he was more based on religious leanings and things like that rather than what is the correct thing to do. He's put his own religious beliefs ahead of the principles of the country, which if you're running for political office like that, you can't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Just out of
but Kavanaugh is kind of this. But so as far as Roy Moore goes, aside from the religious aspect of it, the rest of his principles and all that sort of thing, at least as far as I could tell, were more towards the middle as opposed to, the what I would want from a right wing candidate. So aside from his religious things, while I do agree with him on the religious perspective on those examples, I don't think his political career and his political what he had done previously lines up with my understanding of what is right based on principles and morals. The only thing I could agree with him on was the religious stuff, which I'm like, well, that's still not as right leaning. So in my mind, because I'm far on the right, he was more towards the middle than I would like from a candidate. And I see the same thing with Kavanaugh. I was like, well, he's more towards the middle than what I would like from a candidate. And because he doesn't have the full support of Republicans, because he's kind of towards the moderate, and same thing with Roy Moore. The only person who supported Roy Moore was Trump. The rest of the Republican, a lot of the base was kind of like, no, he's too moderate for us, or he's not he's not our ideal candidate. And so then when these accusations came against them, they kind of just backed off and were like, dude, that he wasn't worth fighting for, so why should we risk our reputations and our names to try to save him from these allegations?
Yeah, I hate Mitt Romney with a passion. I cannot stand him. I think the fact he's going to be my senator is a very disheartening thing. But at least he had the balls to say this dude is not worth it, like calling on him to drop his campaign.
Yeah, so I think that would have been the correct thing to do for Roy Moore, but
yeah. So yeah, Blue, you're right. 21,924 votes separated the two. So let's say
ridiculous.
that is extremely narrow. So let's say we subtracted the write-ins, which would put them in a negative. That would put us at negative 928 votes. So if we would have added the write-ins to Roy Moore, he would have beaten Doug Jones by only 928 votes, which I think, if I'm not mistaken about election laws in various states like Alabama and whatnot, there would have been a mandatory recount.
Yeah.
I mean, there's elections where they decided it by 131 votes or whatever, like sometimes less than 10 or 2 votes, which at some point you'd have to be like, okay, that's too close. We got to have a recount. And, it's like with Roy Moore, I mean, I looked at his political positions. I looked at his actions as a Supreme Court Justice of Alabama when I heard there was a special election going on because Jeff Sessions resigned to become U.S. Attorney General. I looked at his positions, and I just found way too many disagreements, especially on the social front. And I'm like, okay, the allegations, I'm not going to call these women liars. If a woman says to me that they were raped, I would say I believe you. But if you're going to say so and so did this to me, I'm gonna have to ask that we take you to the hospital, we call the police. But if you're gonna tell me this was decades ago, I'm gonna be like, then to me it's like that. To me, just raises too many questions.
Okay, so here's the other thing that pisses me off about leftists and these hashtag believe all women. We have had rape kits in the U.S. readily available since at least the 80s. Like those have been pretty, like every police station you go to and every hospital you go to. Maybe it wasn't everyone in the 80s, but at least late 80s, early 90s minimum, right? 90 plus, like 90, the year 1990 to today, rape kits at every hospital and police station. I don't think that, like, unless you're out in the middle of nowhere where everybody knows everybody else, I mean, even then, you probably have a rape kit at that police station or at that small town hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But the leftists and these Democrats and these hashtag believe all women, they aren't telling people to go. They aren't telling people about these rape kits. They aren't telling people to take advantage of this. If you even suspect that you are the victim of a rape, go get one of these kits, because I mean, not get one of these kits as in go buy one, but go get one of these procedures performed on you. Test yourself out, because you don't have to file the rape report. You do not have to start the police investigation right then.
Yeah.
But they will have that on file in case you ever decide to open one.
Yeah, and it's like, I think they said like 5 days after a rape, they could get DNA evidence out of you.
Yes.
It's like,
but
so
but a week after the fact, the evidence is, I mean, you're good luck at finding anything to convict it. So the sooner the better, but I think it might be up to 7 days, where it's 5 or 7, something like that. So the sooner the better, granted, but after 7 days, you're just kind of like, at this point, it's
you got nothing.
Too little, too late. 30 years later.
Yeah. Also, to Sleepy Projections, god damn it, you fucking jinxed it. Damn it. I just saw what Sleepy Projections put in the chat. They say rape allegations are going to replace calling people racist.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to happen. I mean, Sleepy Projections predicted the future. That's what's going to happen. And I'm just going to say it, and I know this might be an unpopular opinion. I am in favor of the statute of limitations. I think that at some point, it's like, you had all this time to come forward. What do you want us to do? So let's say HUMANE was a rapist, right? And Blue said, HUMANE raped me. And I'd ask, okay, when did this happen? If Blue said 34 years ago or 50 years ago,
I'm only 20. This is some holes in it.
No. What are you talking about? No, it is perfectly no. Listen and believe.
It's like,
listen
okay.
and believe, Blue. I raped you more than 34 years ago. So before either of us was born, this happened. That's what S-Man has stated. You better believe S-Man. Listen and believe.
Right.
Don't oppress me, you white male.
Wait a minute. Do you have a penis or not?
That's, oh my god.
Man, that transphobe in you.
Oh my god.
Can't believe this.
But yeah, so like imagine that. Like, let's say or we could say, what if HUMANE forcefully raped Blue today, and in 2052 he finally comes forward and says that, oh yeah, HUMANE raped me. It's like, okay, if this happened in 2018, we're in 2052, there's nothing we can do. In my state,
here's the thing. If he somehow found a videotape of some alleyway and it proves it, I'd be fine doing it.
Oh yeah. I'd be fine.
But then
If
you don't
there was
have to not
evidence,
have any
yeah.
statute of limitations.
Well, okay. Let's say we have no statute of limitations. If we found a videotape or a picture, like some people are dumb enough to take pictures of themselves committing crimes and think, yeah, this will never end up in the hands of the law.
Well, some people are dumb enough to live stream themselves committing a crime.
Oh, that was so stupid.
I don't know.
I mean, but if we found something where there's like, no way this could be faked. Oh yeah, like if they found a video of Kavanaugh raping a girl, no more would need to be said. He would be arrested immediately. But a reason I have no problem with the statute of limitations is the chances of getting that type of evidence, especially decades after the fact, is slim to none.
Yeah.
And it would clog up court cases. And it's like, to me, it's a way to light the fire under the police's ass to get them moving.
I mean, I get the idea that you're talking about here, and I kind of agree with you in that regard, in that, because the idea behind statute of limitations is like, do something now. Don't wait till the last minute to file something. Don't wait till the last minute, because this is probably not going to go through. Get it done as early as possible, and if you don't put that time limit, people, if you don't put the sense of urgency, like, oh, you only have this many years to act, so if you're getting to 9 years and 11 months and 29 days, oh, it's probably time to file and say, oh, well, if the statute of limitation is 10 years, guess I should do something now. But if there's no statute of limitations, you might drag that out for another 5 years or another 10 years or another 20 years. And then, before you know it, 30 plus years have gone by and you still haven't done anything about this. I don't know why that would be the case. But some people do that because they don't think things through. So I get the idea, but as far as certain crimes, I don't think there should be any statute of limitations on.
Well, yeah.
Murder, rape, and what was the other one?
Kidnapping. I mean,
let's see.
Murder, rape. I mean, California, if I'm not mistaken, the statute of limitations I think is 8 years. In Pennsylvania, it's 12. In my state, we have none. It used to be, I think, around 2 decades. And I mean, at some point it gets ridiculous. But what was the other crime you wanted to mention?
Okay.
Murder and rape.
So the other one is kind of related to rape, the pedophilia thing. So those would kind of be because you can't be the victim of a pedophile without being raped. So that's what I was saying. I was like, no, there's a third one there. As far as sexual assault and some of these other things, that I think that's something that needs to be more of a statute of limitations because evidence for that kind of disappears over time.
Yeah.
But as far as the rape incident, get the rape kit, which is something like dude, this should be something that they talk about in every college course. And hey, it's your orientation of college. They should be talking about hey, if something happens, go get this done.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I can understand. It would be hard. I've spoken to people who've been sexually assaulted. They said it was the hardest thing to do, but they knew that they had to do it. Some said that they would be afraid that if they didn't, someone else would be in their shoes, and they wanted to prevent that from happening, so they would report it. And I saw a post someone I know shared on Facebook saying they can report whatever the fuck they want, and it's all right, well, then you're denying yourself justice, and you probably allowed this person to go hurt other people. So
yeah, that's the other fact. So that's the other thing that's not being pushed by leftists and Democrats and all these, feminists and SJW types is okay, so this person supposedly performed an incident several decades ago or a lot of years ago, and it wasn't reported right away, and you decided to sit on this information for 20 plus years. How many victims have been in the interim, right? So if Kavanaugh did this 34 years ago, right? 34 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
How many victims between, hey, he was willing to hold you down and choke you while trying to take your clothes off and rape you? If he did this to you then, how many victims have occurred between that incident and him being the age he is now?
Yeah, and it's you were talking about the psychology of someone who would do what he was accused of. It's I think that if Kavanaugh was a rapist, I would be fucking surprised if that was the only time in his life he ever did that to this point in time. The chances I think are very slim, and it's to me it's I understand it's hard to report, but it's god damn it, if you want something done, it's hard to sympathize when you waited 50 years. When Bill Cosby's accusations were coming out now, it's you had all of this time.
Well, some of them were pretty recent, because some of them were up past the statute of limitations, so
Yeah, some were in the 60s, and some were as late as 2004.
Okay. So going back that far, it's sort of understandable why they waited so long, because there was a huge stigma against it.
Yeah.
Right, so coming forward and blaming men, if you got raped, you deserved it. There was a huge stigma against it.
Yeah.
70s and 80s, complete change of societal standards.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, 90s on, it was changed so much that, it's the exact opposite, where men are going out of their way to protect women. So even if somebody gets a whiff of, oh, wait, so this guy touched you inappropriately? Okay, that guy's going to get his neck wrung. It's a bit of a shift, it turned to the point where it kind of is now, right? Where so if a woman even hints at some man inappropriately touching her, the community gathers up and kind of lynch mobs, right?
Yeah.
It was that shift in perspective of, I mean, 60s and 70s and all that sort of thing. It was still kind of the prudish Victorian era. So if a woman was the victim, she was doing something wrong. Similar to what ISIS talks about right now. It's like, well, if you allowed yourself to get raped, you're in the wrong, so we're going to stone you to death. I mean, I'm not saying that was kind of the mentality of the United States, but that's along the same lines, is because we were so in that Victorian era prudish, puritanical mindset in the United States for the most part. I mean, because like 50s and 60s is where that started to go out the window. And that's when it
do you know
started.
who's not being accused of sexual assault right now?
What?
Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Not a single accusation. Everyone hating on him for not going into rooms alone with women.
That's overboard. What a crazy loon.
What a misogynist! He dares not go into other rooms with women that aren't his wife. Okay, that whole thing I think is a fucking stupid way of thinking. It's like, no, I think you can go in a room with another woman, and you're not gonna fuck her.
But now he's looking at things and he's like, guys, I'm in political life. I'm at the top of the food chain, one heartbeat away from the presidency, and I don't see a single accusation.
Yeah.
He's good about himself now,
And Paul Ryan's never been accused of sexual assault, and he is second in line behind Vice President Pence for the presidency. Should, let's say, Pence takes off, let's say Pence dies and Trump died, or they're both removed or whatever, Paul Ryan would be president.
Actually, according to a newsfeed article I read, Hillary Clinton would then be president because she somehow is supposed to be in the line of succession. There was this whole article they did a few years back where she can still win the election, guys.
Yeah. If Pence and Trump are both killed, then Clinton takes over. I think I read that,
election.
right?
It's a special election.
Could you? I would love to read this, because if that was the case, then holy fuck.
It's not the case. They're full of it.
I was like,
no. The actual line of secession. Hillary's name is I think 1020th. Right?
Here it is. Hillary Clinton could still become president. And this is January 18th, 2018.
Oh, that's terrible.
I will say this though.
They try so hard. How many are there?
I was talking about time frames. I was like, for the Bill Cosby thing, I could understand why some of those women would be hesitant to come forward. But some of the women from the 80s and 90s,
6 support.
What?
Oh, honey, no. Okay, I have to turn this off.
Okay.
God damn it.
That's the petition?
It's so fun to see this, though. Come on.
6 supporters, y'all.
That's a lot of confidence in that, I guess.
Yeah. When she was Secretary of State, I think that would make her 5th in line. That's funny. Both times when her husband was sworn in as president, she held the Bible as he raised his right hand. And she was Obama's Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. All 3 times, that was as close to the presidency she would get. And she couldn't make it. To me, I always found that hilarious. When I saw videos of Bill Clinton's inauguration, the comments would be like, this is as close to the presidency she'd get, but she still couldn't make it. Oh my god. It's hilarious. Even almost 2 years later, it's still kind of funny. Where it's like, I could have pictured a Hillary Clinton presidency, and then you look at the reasoning people did not vote for her. It's just hilarious. Especially the reactions afterward. Oh, but, it's like...
Yeah. I think they made a movie about Hillary Clinton's presidency. I think it's like the first 2 minutes of Terminator 2. Right, where there's the nuclear bomb going off when there's the playground. That's what when you said Clinton presidency, that's what goes through my head. I'm like, dude, that's that's the end of civilization as we know it.
Of course, and it's like, I actually watched an entire video, like a documentary of the election. I'm like, a lot of things I'm like, no, I can agree with this guy. I don't remember seeing a lot of disagreements. And then he went over more of like why Trump won. And like, you should have included that in the original documentary, but okay. But it was really a lot of fun to watch. It was over an hour, and it detailed the entire thing, even things I didn't know myself. And I'm like, that was pretty informative. I wish I would have seen that when it came out. But it's like, yeah, pointing out, coming back to Mike Pence. I thought it was weird his I will not be in a room with a woman alone unless I'm with my wife. It now makes sense because of the McCarthyism, and I will call it that till the day I die. The McCarthyism of the Me Too movement.
I think calling it McCarthyism is a disservice to McCarthy.
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry, Senator McCarthy, but you brought this upon yourself.
Well, no, I actually think there was some legitimacy to the McCarthy hearings, but so that's why I would prefer to call it a witch hunt, because, yeah, there's no legitimacy behind the Salem witch trials. So this McCarthyism, like, there's a pretty good amount of evidence that there was communism infiltration into the U.S. government, and also into the schools and into Hollywood.
I thought Senator McCarthy was dead. I'm kidding.
No, he is dead. But
yeah,
his actual investigation,
right now,
I think he stopped communism infiltration into the government, and he kind of missed Hollywood and our schools, and that's why Hollywood and schools are kind of leftist, mainstream, all support of communism and all. Anyway, that's a completely separate topic, but what's going on right now, okay, let's give McCarthy was out of his mind, hysterical, trying to find, communist under every rock, and okay. What's going on right now with Kavanaugh is even more extreme than that version of McCarthy.
It's more calculated. Feinstein had the letter for like 6 to 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Didn't tell anyone. Joe McCarthy, if he thought they were a communist, he would have said it immediately.
Yeah,
That guy's a communist. This, they waited. It's political. They waited and waited and waited till the 11th hour.
So, even though they're doing the actual vote tomorrow, part of me wishes that they would have held it out till, like, November, and, delayed it until November, because if this goes out that far, there's not going to be a blue wave. If people see this level of insanity extended out for that many months, there's no way the blue wave happens and we'd see a red wave. But since they're voting on it tomorrow, people are like, oh, he's definitely guilty. How dare Republicans vote him? I think if he gets the nomination, that's going to solidify Democrats against the Republican Party.
I will say this. It would be hilarious if they delayed that they delayed it till November, like they delayed it till like on November 6th, and the Democrats, like, if a red wave happens and they're in the ultra minority of the Senate and the House of Representatives, and Kavanaugh gets confirmed. If that happened, I think I'm probably gonna have I'm gonna die of laughing, like a huge laughing fit, because I did that with the 2016 election, because the reactions were so salty, and it's gonna be even worse with the midterms.
Yeah. So
although I would just say to everybody, just don't hold your breath on a wave. I think it's more like a ripple.
Yeah. So I would hope that they would delay it out until November, and then everybody would hopefully see the circus that is going on over the Kavanaugh hearings and see how delusional these Democrats are when they're talking about, oh, there needs to be an FBI investigation. I'm like, dude, what you're doing right now is superior to the FBI investigation.
Thing is, let them have it. Let them have a month looking into it, and this could turn into a win for the GOP. I'm not the biggest fan of Republicans. Yeah. I'm sure we can disagree on many things here, but it's going to be a political Machiavellian-esque win for Republicans if they can see the course.
Yeah. So I think by having the vote tomorrow, I think the only win scenario for Democrats right now is Kavanaugh gets the nomination. Kavanaugh gets the nomination. The Republicans will consider that a win, but I think ultimately that will split society overall, because there's still these crazy, like, Alyssa Milano fans and nut job on the left who think that he's guilty of being a serial gang rapist. And if the Republicans nominate him, the Republicans who understand what's going on, they're like, okay, that's a good thing. The Democrats, I think, will solidify in the Democratic Party, which would ultimately be a win for Democrats if Kavanaugh gets nominated as Supreme Court. If the vote happens tomorrow and Kavanaugh doesn't get it, that's a loss for the Democrats. Even though we won, that would be a winning the battle, losing the war scenario for Democrats. Because
check
that
this out.
means...
Real quick, I'm going
means-
to screen share this.
Oh.
I'm just looking through stuff. National Review on Twitter. The evidence is no stronger this afternoon than it was before Dr. Ford testified.
That's what it looks like.
Okay?
I'm sorry, that's a meme right there. That
No,
face.
it's already been memed. There's pictures of Garth from Wayne's World and her next to each other, and people overlapping them, and just saying to tag her photo with quotes from Wayne's World.
Here's this bomb tweet. It was overwhelming before talking about the evidence. Now, yeah, that's still the case. What evidence? I'm wondering. I thought this was supposed to be. We do just believe her. What evidence?
Look at the top two. Look at the top two replies. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no shit. But then this one is 3-1 negative. I have a feeling right now this is a Democratic win. As of right now, it's a Democratic win. It is.
Okay, so right now you think that
Short term.
Oh, you mean today? Today overall, yeah. I think the Democrats are crazy. So, which is why I think if Kavanaugh does get the nomination, which I think it's going to be terrible for him and his family if they don't, but if the Republicans vote yes, then that counts. That's going to lead to a bigger ripple for the Democrats come November.
I can see that.
If
interesting
he doesn't get
also.
the nomination, again, that hurts him and his family. But if it's an overwhelming no vote, that's a win for everybody else because it's a loss for the Kavanaughs, which is, I hate to say it, but that means Trump gets his second pick, which is going to probably be someone a little more right-leaning, a little more conservative, a little more dedicated to the principles of the founding of this country. Someone who's outspokenly against Roe v. Wade, somebody who's outspokenly against these leftist politics, somebody who is outspokenly in favor of the Second Amendment and in favor of free speech, and so I think the Democrats are going to be, they're like, oh crap, we just got somebody who's, even more right-leaning than Kavanaugh. But the other thing is, I think the Democratic Party right now is mostly split. They're still divided, and so if this Kavanaugh doesn't go through, I think that fracture of the Democratic Party is still going to be in effect. And people, because right now people are leaving the Democrats because they're seeing the shit show that's going on.
Yeah,
and they're like, this is uncalled for. The walk away movement, I think it's going to explode.
I would certainly hope so. And the thing is, the only Senate seat I can predict right now will go to a Democrat is in California, and I usually tell that in a joke because literally the only people that are actually on the ballot are Democrats. Yeah. But Feinstein, she's 85 years old. I'm sorry, she is the biggest reason why I don't like career politicians. She's 85.
She's so evil.
She is so hypocritical.
And she was so bad at her job. How did she get nominated?
She lost the California Democratic Party's endorsement. She defended the NSA, but got angry that her staff was being spied on by I think they reported the CIA, and I'm like, I was so angry because it's like, that is so hypocritical. How could you not see it? And it's like,
well, hey, quick point here that I didn't actually see. Since about July, Republicans have lost about 1% in the generic ballot for the polls. Mm-hmm. In the last week, they've gained back 1.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
together and saying, all right, this is some bullshit right here.
Yeah. So I think Republicans are being strengthened right now because of the Kavanaugh thing and because they've seen the idiocy of the Democrats. So I think overwhelmingly Republicans are being strengthened right now.
Yeah.
If Kavanaugh gets the nomination and becomes a member of the Supreme Court, I don't think the Republican increase is going to match the solidification of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see the typical, Republican president, so Democratic Congress.
I'll say this. Okay, the Democrats, yes, they are divided. You got the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez types, and I think she will win that election. I hate saying that, but her opponent has not gotten any donations, really. She's outraising him decisively.
There is a silver lining to Ocasio making it in. because she's got a Darwin Award winner, like somewhere down the line. Eating lead paint or walking through traffic, it's going to happen. Like she, right? That I mean, hopefully I'm not saying something too absurd. I think she's got a Darwin Award in her future because she's just that dense. You're like, oh, who could have predicted that actually drinking bleach and eating Tide Pods could have killed her? That's what I predict for her. It's like the idiocy from her. It's like she gets nominated and then dies in something stupid.
I do have. Okay, I'm gonna have to go. There's something going on. I do have to go, but you all take care. Goodbye.
Well, I'm actually leaving right now too.
All right, yeah. So, all right, yeah. Thanks for joining me. I thought it was crazy. Yeah, but like we were talking about, I think right now, Congress after November is going to be mostly the same, which means
I could see that.
means Republican-controlled executive, more right-leaning controlled SCOTUS, and Republican-controlled Congress. I think that's going to happen for the next 2 years of the Trump presidency.
I can see that, yeah.
If Kavanaugh gets the nomination, I think we might see a slight flip of Congress, and we've got the Republican-controlled White House. We would have a up for debate SCOTUS, and then a Democrat-controlled Congress.
Here's my thing. And this is a long-term prediction, but I still don't have a single goddamn clue who Democrats are going to put forward in 2020.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I think Trump's got the incumbent spot locked down. Okay, the one that I think might be able to do something, so these are two people who have been proposed, Oprah Winfrey and Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah,
so as far as Oprah Winfrey, I think she has outright denied an allegation or denied any chance of running. Dwayne Johnson, however, seems to be making efforts to become more political and to start doing that. So after, starting 2019, we might start to see him kind of gearing up for a political campaign, which...
Here's the thing. What super delegates are they going to get?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I am not sure about that, but as far as whether Dwayne could win or not, I don't think he could. I think Trump's going to lock it in for the full 8. But I do think this kind of... The Democrats are going to start leaning more towards the celebrity appeal, and they have more of that than the Republicans do. Like, Trump is a huge outlier for people who are kind of more right-wing leaning, but he's kind of like...
He was a businessman,
Yeah,
he was always kind of...
But he's a businessman, and he was a huge celebrity personality before even... I mean, people kept asking him if he was going to run for decades and stuff like that. But once Democrats lock on that, Trump was a populist candidate, we can just go for populist candidates who spout leftist ideology.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot more of them. Like, look at Jim Carrey and Bill Maher and...
Please, no.
Iron Man, what's his name? Robert Downey Jr. and Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Like, all of these big celebrities, they're all coming out. Well, they were all in support of Hillary, right?
I don't know all of them.
Imagine somebody like that running for president. I mean, they've got more of an appeal than Republicans. Like, Republicans, when it comes to celebrity personalities, and we've got Trump and...
hey, Robert Downey Jr.
maybe
is
John
Libertarian.
He was in those campaigns for Hillary.
I know. I see some articles here talking about him getting shit for not supporting her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I thought... Okay, so maybe I was wrong, because there was a lot of the Marvel cast, because I'm like, dude, I completely lost all respect for Chris Evans. Because of his pussy fucking shit about all that. So, I mean, there was a lot of the members of the Marvel's Avengers that were in those ads for Hillary, and, I mean, Don Cheadle was part of that, too. I'm like, damn it. Guys, stop it. I like you as actors. I think you're good at your job. Stop showing up in these stupid campaigns for Hillary or for these stupid movements.
Like,
So
if this is Star Wars, the new people, if they do it, I don't really give a shit. I don't really care.
No,
about
because
them.
Star Wars died to social justice a
Ugh.
long time ago.
Still gonna see episode 9, but just to laugh at it, just to
Oh.
watch it finally burn and die.
Yeah. What was I saying? It's okay. So if Robert Downey Jr. is libertarian, that's awesome. So as far as I know, so John Voight is conservative. Pretty big Republican guy. Gary Oldman is conservative. I think he is libertarian. I don't think he's outright stated his political position, but based on some of the comments he's made, more libertarian. But a lot of these big name actors, a lot of these people with a lot of celebrity appeal and a lot of political pull, as far as it comes to big personalities that everybody knows, big like household names, like Zuckerberg, leftist. Like if Zuckerberg runs, that's another potential. But he's huge leftist. Jeff Bezos, right? Amazon guy. If he ends up running, household name.
Oh, he's got the money to
leftist.
support
He's got the money. He's leftist.
Ooh, wait a minute. But what would happen with other companies like Google? Would they go against him just for that?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting to see unfold.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. Well, the other thing is Jeff Bezos would be all about making the government completely plutocracy. So leftist plutocracy, and be like, yep. So all of you, everybody else gets socialized except for Amazon, and that gets to stay privatized. my monopoly. Yeah. So that could be pretty bad. But I think in 2020 they're not going to pull out their big guns because they're kind of like chalking it up as a loss. So I think they might run some minor senators to kind of give a little bit of rallying around, and possibly a celebrity like Johnson, like The Rock. But I don't think they're going to be putting their all into it and be like, okay, we're banking on this. I think they've kind of conceded that, yeah, we're probably not going to win 2020. Otherwise, right now, we'll see after the November vote, because that's the time we'll start to see who they're actually putting forward as their candidate. But I think right now they've got a few like minor potentials.
Cory Booker, Kamala Harris. Who's that one woman?
Yeah, Cory Booker.
Warren.
Dude, he's not. Yeah, so Warren has been suggested. Cory Booker doesn't have a chance in hell.
Kamala Harris was one they were talking about. She takes off the woman and minority. So.
Yeah. There was another one that was. Yeah, but they wouldn't stand a chance. Like you're talking about, if even being very Democrat, or even with their crazy Democrat support, when it comes to election, you're talking about somebody who's going to pull in maybe 20% of the vote. It's right. Cory Booker and Harris and Warren, they're not going to get the full 30 to 40% that they need to pull out a victory. They're going to get half of that at best.
I have no idea. I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, in 2018, we're kind of getting really close and getting ebbed up. Can you imagine going through 2 more years of this shit?
Oh,
I can't.
Dude. It's gonna get more and more ridiculous.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, I participated in the political when it came to Trump, but I don't see anybody else that really kind of is like, okay, this is somebody worth backing. This is someone worth getting into politics over. So Austin Peterson didn't get the nomination in Missouri.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, well, that I might have felt compelled to kind of vote for him, although I didn't think he was going to win. The other guy seems okay. I don't know much about him, but it's not enough for me to kind of like, well, okay, I'm going to go and vote and tell people to vote for. I'm just, for this round of election for November, I'm kind of hands off. I'm kind of like going back to my original ANCAP roots and being like, okay, political system is probably just going to be more of the same and not really going to change. I do think Trump is is an outsider that is actually dismantling the two sides of the same coin that we've been seeing for decades with Republicans versus Democrat. So I think he's kind of like the bull in the china shop, smashing things, and I'm like, that's what I want. I want more of that.
Well, what's funny is I feel like whoever's going to win is going to be the first one to recollect and put it all back together again. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's after Trump, so if you're talking about... But I want more candidates like Trump that are just going to go in and start, smashing the normal that we've gotten used to. Where it's like, well, should we increase taxes by 4% or should we increase taxes by 6%? Like, no, stop increasing taxes, you freaking assholes. But that's what it's like. The Republicans were like, oh, let's say 4%. And Democrats were like, no, 6%. And you're like, wait, that's not a debate. How about we have no tax increases? Who's the candidate for that? So I think Trump is that outlier that's smashing all that, the narrative of increasing government, but just on how much. So the only other one that I'm thinking is, so Adam Kokesh has mentioned running as a Libertarian candidate in 2020, which, again... voting for him is basically just kind of, it's a waste of a vote, but it is it's a
do not keep
statement.
Gary Johnson in. Just do not put him up.
Yeah, voting for him would kind of be a political statement more so than a legitimate vote, because I think Trump's going to lock it in, and then in 2024, well, will the U.S. still be around by then, or will we be enroached in some kind of civil war? It's hard to say.
We'll see.
But hopefully by then, my various businesses and Funfair and Fair Market and all of my stuff will start to pay off, and I will have my millions or possibly billions by then. And then I can go off and I can go buy my own island and start in Kapistan.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah.
All right, man. I gotta get going. Talk to you there.
That is the dream. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for the input, and thanks for anybody who actually showed up on my stream or on S-Man's, and I'm gonna end the stream there. And I don't see any chats or anything, so alright, so I think I got all the points I wanted across, and hopefully by 2024 the US is still around, and I may or may not be a part of it by then, but we'll see.